What's up, guys? I'm your host, John Martinez. Welcome back to the Good Leader Podcast. I'm with my co-host, Dr. Dave motherfucking Miller. And our topic today is going to be attention over purpose. And even clowns get attention, so it's not the same. Miguel, go ahead and throw the intro right there. So the reason we kind of chose this topic this week is I was telling Dave, I saw a couple, well, I've seen a lot of different people like in the different social spaces talk about like attention. And a lot of it is like that me, but it's not really telling guys what that really means other than, hey, look at me. And if you were like me, you would be awesome like I am. And I think that's really sometimes what confuses people on social media between attention and purpose.
Yeah.
And to me, a lot of those, I don't know what you want to call them, influencers, streamers, because I don't see us as influencers or streamers. I just see us as like we're men that talk about topics that we know about, that we have some firsthand experience with, try to share knowledge because maybe, you don't have men in your life telling you, maybe people that don't have their dads, or maybe
Right.
you just want to hear from a third party so it's not someone you know. And I feel like you see a lot of this craziness on social media, everything from, hey, if you had money, that would make your life great. Hey, if you had girls, that would make your life great. But to like extreme levels where, they have guys that are like, they had the guy, always kind of make fun of him on social media. I actually have some funny clips to make fun of him about, but it's like, there's one where it's like, his name's Kavictor, I think that's the name is. And he like overdosed on screen, like literally OD'd. And it's because he says it himself. He has to take so much drugs just to interact in public and feel confident and to go out and like try to hit on these girls. And it's like, so what kind of message does that send to like young men or even men, right? Where it's like you have to like basically drug yourself to build up some level of confidence to go get a girl. Like that does, like, what does that even lead to?
Well, I mean, it's like when you're trying to live up to like an image rather than actually being like, a real person.
Yeah.
You get like those influencers and stuff, they want to draw clicks, that's how they draw people in. And so they'll go out, and they, hire the hooker, they dress up, or they come sit on their arm for like a while, or sit on the hood of like a rented Lamborghini, and stuff like that for like 5 seconds, and then, then once you actually follow or something like that, they really have nothing of any substance to offer.
And you hit the nail right there on the head. They had I've already seen a couple where it's like they're telling them like, hey, shut off the cameras, and a couple, there's always people on like doing their little investigations, and that a lot of these girls that are on those streams, they get told like, hey, do an 80-20 split, or hey, show me in the background because I have OnlyFans. They have an agent. So for all the men watching and think that these girls actually like or care about them, they don't. You know what I mean? It's vice versa. The guys probably don't care about the girls, and the girls don't care about it's basically you're watching. It's like a form of prostitution.
Pretty much.
That's what you know what I mean? So, but I also think it gives people like a false sense of what maybe relationships or what interactions are supposed to be like.
Yeah.
And then that's why a lot of these guys, to me, when you take away that attention or it becomes too much for them, they start, it always ends up pretty much negative. If you look at, I use Wes Watson as an example. When he first came out of prison, he had a lot of stuff to say that was more I would say on the motivational end, more like discipline, but he just said it kind of in a kind of like harder way that was kind of different, so that which kind of made him stand out, and it made him more interesting. But then you see that to where he ended up, and it's like, okay, well, that's what happens when when you basically you're an addict to things, but it just becomes you're an addict to different things. You're an addict to money, you're an addict to attention, you're an addict to now social media. You're willing to do anything to continue to like, chase that dragon,
right?
And you don't know when to stop.
Yeah, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yeah.
And what do you think about, like, what is your opinion on a lot of the stuff that you see? And I don't know if you see any of that stuff really coming up in your feed. I usually don't see it in my feed too much, as I do just see it like randomly coming up, and kind of like when it comes to like men's stuff in the men's space,
right?
And kind of being like, what the hell is this? I think
the things I pay attention to the most are usually the things that are cut from like some kind of real life interaction.
Yeah.
because it's unscripted stuff like that. That's the stuff that kind of appeals to me more than
Yeah.
anything, because the rawness of it, you get depth from it, whereas like, a lot of these people, I would call, like, say, two-dimensional people, it's like, oh, so they got a look, they got a style, they got like whatever, but like just as thin as a sheet of paper. You got really nothing to offer
Beyond that.
besides what gets your attention.
No, yeah, and that was one of the points, is putting basically like viral doesn't mean you're valuable. And then I think that kind of comes back to, I posted, I've been seeing like so much like crimes against kids, right? Lately, there's like so much. And I keep kind of trying to figure out, like, to me, I'm always like, I guess, a problem, looking for a problem. What's the solution, right? Like, what, not, instead of just being like, it's like, where's the solution?
Right.
And I think that a lot of that is coming back to, like, what are these people learning growing up? Because a lot of them are younger kids that are like, what are they being taught along the way, that this is where it sends them down this road? You know what I mean? That, and then I think it starts coming back to some of the influence on social media and different spaces like that, where it's like, well, whatever I want to do, I can do, as long as I get what I want. Because I can't think of any other way that they're doing some of the things that they're doing, whether it be like the guy that just the singer that was accused of chopping up his girlfriend, and he just got arrested. I posted up the one about the kid. The baby was 2 years old, and his cousin and the cousin's friend were sexually assaulting a 2-year-old baby. Like, it's like sick shit, right? Like, and I'm just like, how the fuck do you get to that point, other than you're being told that whatever you feel like doing is all right, and somehow justifying it? Because to me, those people are not, to me, that's like, you're not human, you're demonic. So I have no sympathy, no mercy for you, no anything. It's like, but I think at some point, like, something has to lead you down that path.
Well, it's the whole notion that that values and morals and stuff are really subjective. It's all really based on what you feel in a moment. And when you're like just defined by your feelings, you have no guardrails on what you do. Because feelings should just be way out of control. You got to be able to tamp that down. Be able to operate within certain barriers, certain standards. That are supposed to be fairly common, so that way everybody can be held accountable. But when you break that down, then there's no accountability. Everything is right, at least from your point of view, and then chaos ensues.
No, you're right. And I think if anyone's getting, offended by anything that me and Dave are saying, it's like, to me, it's like, well, you're part of the problem, because this to me all came about because people were trying to make it acceptable to say, like, well, yeah, like anything goes. You know what I mean? I remember a couple years back during COVID when they were playing with the idea of it was like they're calling them like minor attracted people, right? And then it's like, so to me, it's like you're trying to test the waters, like, you know what I mean? You're trying to see, if you throw out this thing, what's people's reaction to it. And I think that's where it starts coming back on, like, a lot of the it's almost like basically debauchery, you know what I mean? And I'm no prude by like any like any sort of thing where we're like, I mean, we cuss, we talk shit, we like action movies, we like working out. Like, we're not any type of like person that like, and we probably both seen our share of like upsetting things. But what people are doing is almost like, they're not seeing upsetting, they're like doing upsetting things, you know what I mean? They're it's almost like they're trying to test the limits of what they can get away with and do. And I think a lot of that comes back to, again, the attention seeking that's come from social media, of like, look at me, you know what I mean? And a lot of it is, again, to me, a lot of it becomes somewhat of a clown show, and it's not purpose. And that doesn't happen just in the goofy influencer space. I think right now, I think it's even it was happening kind of in the special forces space, because there were so many of them were getting caught lying, and that. And this is what to me, I guess what I take away from that is, like, attention is the strong ass fucking drug.
Right.
Because once you start getting that level of attention, and maybe you're getting deals and things going your way, like, at what point do you stop compromising yourself? You know what I mean? To be successful. And I really don't think you need to. I think, but I think maybe it's just maybe that's their first taste of it, and it just becomes addictive to them. You know what I mean?
Right. But I mean, again, it does come to like, like a established set of morals and values, and so I think there's a few different factors that end up being at play. Is like, now it's without like, anybody really centered in like, some kind of like a religious base or anything like that, or they're all centered in the physical, rather than something greater than themselves. It does end up kind of being like, like a test of how much can I poke the bear?
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that is like we've had too much of just like, oh, you got to be tolerant. You got to be tolerant. You got to be tolerant. You can't judge people for what their thing is. You can't do, and it's like there's got to be at least a degree of pushback, that people can actually feel, before they start causing damage.
Yeah, and it's like you said, the tolerant piece. Like I watched it was like a clip, and it was like a guy had to be probably 65, 70, and he's in it's like it was a pride parade.
Yeah.
And this dude's dancing in his fucking underwear, like those Fruit of the Looms kind of see-through old school looking underwears. And there's kids and their parents around. I'm like, I say, what the crazy thing about it, that to me I guess the irony of it was, said how many people in this crowd are the same people that are like, get the people on the Epstein list, get the people on the Epstein list. I'm like, but what do you think you're doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're teaching these kids that that's all right for a grown up to do that in the, publicly do that. You're bringing them to it. And you're telling this guy who's, pretty much, there's no doubt in my mind has some deviant, nature to him, that, hey, I can go ahead and get away with this. There's a whole group of people that think that this is fine, and are cheering me on for it too while they're at it.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the wrong is right, right is wrong type of thing, and that I think is kind of like steering us down that way. And I think that goes back again to the attention, what's different between the attention and the purpose. Right. And if you don't have purpose and you're just seeking attention, then it just becomes more and more. And I think we see more of the kid stuff now because it emboldened a lot of people to do that, like debauchery, because there was no consequence, or they don't think there's a consequence to it.
Right.
Which there is. I mean, they find out. I'm pretty, I think anyone who hasn't been in the, the jail or like a prison, like, that, child molesters, chomos, whatever you want to call them, are pretty much the lowest form of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're not treated very,
Well, it is kind of like a product of say like a secular removal of like transcendent principles, so as they, it becomes like, just kind of like if I was like, who are you to tell me what's right and what's wrong? It's like, it's not, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's like, these values actually came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Even if you want to say this is what all of human history has demonstrated works best in a society. This is a valid data collection point. Yeah. But now it's like, within like the last, like say 100 years and stuff, a lot of this stuff's been thrown out. Yeah. It's like, because we've attached it to these are actually kind of divine principles because they're fundamental. You can't escape them. Certain things work the way they, the way they do. The moment you start deviating from that, then it's like everything starts falling apart. It's not a mystery, but to say that that's not actually a valid way of looking at things and a valid way of actually passing down, guardrails to society, it's dangerous.
And the thing is where it comes down to, like, if you start seeing in like any, I guess, history where society started, like you said, just testing the waters, getting more into like depravity. Yeah. And then at a certain point where if you don't have people pushing back against it, it becomes normalized. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that eventually leads to the fall of that society, because you can't be, to me, that, that tainted and that have so much things going on like that and think that you're going to be part of some long lasting like entity or country or something.
Well, we have so much cultural breakdown anymore, and people have really kind of fallen away from an understanding of what like actual culture is. And in its basic form, culture is essentially what you incentivize versus what you disincentivize. And when there's no lines drawn, then culture degrades. Yeah. And then you just get like conflicting cultures everywhere. People will actually form little pockets of like, well, we see this way, well, we see that the other way, and it just becomes a bunch of head buddy.
Yeah, it's like it starts forming more separation because you lost like the values of what, and the values mean that, mean a lot to, with people, and you have to have them. Like, I still remember, like, going to the army, and they taught us it was leadership. It was, and the way they spell it is LDRSHIP. So it's leadership, honor, integrity, personal or it's a leadership, determination, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And so, like, even just sometimes when I would think about those, like, oh, why did they pick these ones? And you think about what they mean, and those things kind of apply to different parts of your life, and and you have those values that fall on. And then it's also, like, what did your parents teach you? And from what your parents taught you, that those are values that you also carry on, whether people think so or not. So if you don't have those, that's kind of, again, the purpose of the podcast, and having these conversations of saying, okay, well, you need to be around people that actually have some, like, good values and steer you the right way. Because there's also a lot of cases where you look at where, like, I was watching as a documentary today about, like, some people in the music business, and it talked about a guy where, he was older, maybe like 20. His younger stepbrother was, I think, around 11 or 12, and his younger brother talks about, his older brother picked him up. They put a gun in his hand and told him, hey, go shoot this dude. Right. You know what I mean? And he's talking about this as a grown man.
Right.
So I can't imagine that as a grown man that you haven't thought to yourself, like, why the fuck would my older brother do that to me? You know what I mean? Why would my brother, who's supposed to, like, care about me, like, send me down this road? Because I'm pretty sure that altered his entire life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it kind of shows being a manipulator, using people, you know what I mean? And not caring, who you step on to get there in that way.
Right. So that can actually be one path that people, like, go down, when you don't actually have, like you said, with, like, what your parents teach you, and then it translates also to what your community teaches you, all that sort of stuff. When you start filling in the blanks yourself, you become a manipulator, become self-centric, and you're basically using people for your own purposes. But then also that does lead to the attention getting. You have to go out and you have to seek some kind of validation. It's like, so look, I'm making this up as I go. It's got to be just as valid as anything else because nobody told me any different.
No one works as hard as me. Look at me.
Yeah, right. You'll never understand my problems. Yeah, no. So yeah, I mean, so it's that kind of rocky road of, like, yeah, you're looking for validation because you're basically, forming your own set of values. And so, nobody ever told me before this isn't the way it works, and so I need to get attention and try to get people on my side.
I do like that. I think that's probably true a lot now. People are forming their own set of values.
Yeah.
And because they don't have a foundation of, like, even if they had a foundation of, like, hey, this is maybe this is like you don't agree with everything, but here's the good starting point. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
You don't need to hurt other people, you know what I mean, to get yourself ahead, and, try to be, you're not perfect, but, try to, be honest when you can, and, things of that nature. And if they don't have that, and they're just creating their own, like, system, which I think a lot of times I used to hear sometimes people say, like, well, I'm in survival mode. And I used to think, like, I get that point. Yeah, you sometimes can feel like that, but it's also like, well, it's still is not going to justify that you need to do whatever I mean, sometimes you might have to feel like you do whatever, but I guess you have to also be wary of that it doesn't change you. You know what I mean?
Correct.
It doesn't change. You don't change so deep that and me and you both know that from being in different situations like that. Like, you're like, yes, I'm capable of doing things when I need to protect myself or protect other people, but I'm also not going to enjoy it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like, oh, fuck, I'm just looking for confrontation or I'm looking to hurt people. It's more like, I just do what I got to do. And, so you wish you didn't have to, but if I got to, then it is what it is.
It's kind of like a duty when it has to be, but you don't go out looking for it, you know, and you don't go inflicting stuff on people for no good reason.
Yeah, it's more of a middle ground.
I mean, that kind of goes to a thought pattern of mine. I mean, so you say fall back on, say, something like the Ten Commandments, in the Bible and all that. Again, these may not, be. You don't necessarily have to be a Christian to see the logic in how, like, some of these things is, what, don't do that, don't steal, don't, commit murder, don't go. So these are all, like, fundamental things. As they go, so this is going to create the least amount of turmoil
Yeah.
in the society or in your group around you,
Yeah.
if you just follow these simple guidelines, or at
Yeah.
least try to adhere to them, because if you just keep doing all this stuff, you're going to drive everybody else crazy.
Yeah, take away even
You know?
if you're not a Christian, like you said, take
Yeah.
away that aspect of it, and there's still good wisdom and
Yeah.
things to abide by.
Yeah, they're still valid
Yeah,
guidelines.
and then but people, it was funny because I saw something about said, oh, it was in a show where a girl said, oh, I don't like Christians because they're judgmental. But to me, it was like, do you hear yourself what you're saying? You're judgmental. You're saying you don't like Christians because they're judgmental.
You just judged Christians.
You just judge. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of like that, where it's again people always assuming, because I know people tell me, I don't know if you get that. Just be like, you don't act like what I expect a Christian to like
Right,
act
right.
like, and it's like, how do you expect me to act? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like to just kind of be, thumping my Bible at you, and
Right.
so that's not how I say. I don't like people to do that to me, so I don't do that. You know what I mean? I try to make it in a way that it's still myself, like
Yeah.
still how I and interpret things, and
Yeah.
more, I guess, from a having been on the other side of it, where you're kind of more like questioning me, you know what I mean, or hesitant about it.
Yeah, we're more like, the style of Christian, like Denzel Washington in Book of Eli, It's like, we're just like on our mission, trying to get through, down the road to where we belong or whatever. Yeah. Somebody gets our way, we got to start hacking them up with a machine, or so,
That's it.
So yeah, it's just, yeah.
So I brought up some points about, for, being kind of purpose built. And one was to do the right thing, even, when nobody's watching. And that goes back to like a lot of people, like me and you we know, like every night we're here at the gym workout, right? It doesn't mean we're always like having to tell everyone, hey, I'm here, look at me. And then, hey, look what time I got here. Look what time, because sometimes I think people overdo that a little bit. Sometimes it's fine. It's like, whatever. It's like gym shit. But then other times it's like, okay, well, but there's a lot of people that just do it and they just do it. You know what I mean? There's no talking about it. You know what I mean? Type of message. And then the taking responsibility for your life, which again, goes back to that accountability piece, which a lot of people don't. They can't take any responsibility for their life. It's like it's happening to them, and nothing is ever their choice, I guess.
No, right.
The hands of fate are just pushing where they go.
All right.
And then building something real over time. And that goes back to the attention versus the purpose, what are you investing your time in doing? And it's not going to always be glamorous. I guess that's going to be the thing. Like, if you're happy, I think people that are into like working on cars and are doing like, things like that, or construction and things like that, it's not going to always be a glamorous looking thing. But to you, if you like it, fucking that's your purpose. You like building shit, you like fixing things. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, and that should not ever be looked down upon. So that's why I think sometimes I push back with a lot of these like influencers is more like, hey, what their perception is, hey, if you don't got all this money and you're not at these clubs getting drunk and retarded, and then you're not successful. And it's like, nah, everyone has their own version of what success means to them.
So you gotta understand kind of maybe like the differences in what like purpose can be. I mean, purpose can be is like, also I have like a cause, or I have a mission, or something that I'm going to do in life, and I don't need to draw attention to it. I don't need whatever, it's just I'm set on this. That's what I'm doing. Or there's my purpose for doing this is, so that way, like at the gym, a lot of people do, you're just flexing in the mirror. It's like, well, that's your purpose. I mean, that doesn't really have any kind of real socially redeeming value, but okay.
Also, I think this is just my opinion. I feel like a lot of their motivation tends to die off like fairly quickly. You know what I mean? Like, you'll see them around for a bit, and then they realize it's like, yeah, no one cares about your muscles. Like, no one really cares. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to me, I always try to, when I talk to people about that, I'm like, being when I was 18 and I went to the military the first time and doing a lot of like real like physical type of stuff, and we were running, and it's at night and it's dark and cold. I said, no one's fucking filming us.
Right.
No one was like, yeah, come on. We were just doing it like literally like a fucking motivational video. Like, you're doing it in the dark. No one cares about you. No one was like cheering you on.
Yeah.
And you had to like really think about why you signed up to do it. And this is before social media, anything. And you're literally thinking of like, what did I come to the military to prove? Because you're really just proving to yourself, because it's just you and the dark and the running. And you're just like and the, sucking.
It's not about how you look doing it, but
Yeah.
it's about being effective at
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and kind of, and what are your reasons for being there? And a lot of people, I think, I always sometimes wonder, like, would people still act the same if they weren't getting the validation and the attention from it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or is that their main factor that drives them?
So like the more vacuous the purpose, the like more fleeting it is.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, because it's like it's not really it's not really a satisfaction to the soul, really.
Yeah,
You know. But when you got something that actually serves, more than yourself,
yeah,
now that is what I really think of as purpose driven.
yeah.
So
And that was one of the points, actually, was train your body, lead your family, grow your business. And that's things like you said, that's comes stuff like that, you helping other people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like leading other people, helping other people, and doing the work without the need for validation. And then I think we'll probably, because I know we'll probably go eat, we'll have, so we can talk about it a little bit more. I know me and Dave have mentioned it before, but we were thinking about doing like the good and dangerous, kind of like training, doing like a group type of thing.
Dangerous few.
Yeah. And we kind of talked about some of the ideas we've been throwing around about it. And one was doing some like kettlebell workouts, body weight training, strength and conditioning, some Murph-style challenges, running days, maybe some like events. Like I think we're like right now we've been throwing around the idea of Memorial Day. You said doing the Murph.
During the Murph on Memorial Day.
Doing the Murph
that's tradition.
Yeah, and then and some things for guys that are maybe not as familiar with the gym, right? Like beginner friendly days where it's like you learn how to do a push day, you learn what a pull day is, you learn what a leg day is, simple workout instructions, maybe some nutritional help, so that way you don't feel like I see it. Guys walking around the gym, they can tell they're looking at their phone at whatever exercise app they're doing to like try to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
And maybe just some kind of lessons along the way. And by no means are we saying, hey, we're going to be like your personal trainers or anything like that. It just like, but we're giving you some, instruction or help, or maybe putting you around some guys that you can now, when you come in the gym, you don't feel like, I don't know anybody. Who am I going to ask? Now you can talk to people. So we put it like, building camaraderie, train with people who push you. I was thinking about making a shirt that, what did it say? No fat fucks.
No fat fucks. But I also like the concept of like, crossing like the finish line like together.
Yeah.
I remember talking about like, say if there's like a workout for time, it's like even though you finish, and you find somebody who's not finished and you match them reps until they're done and stuff like that. Just kind of, hey, we're in this together.
Yeah.
We're gonna get this done. And so
and people, they
nobody gets left behind.
Yeah, it's like I think he said he wanted to call them like no man left behind.
Yeah, no man left behind workouts.
Yeah. And that's something, people, you work better around groups of guys that are doing the same thing. So if you're a guy that's struggling, or a woman that's struggling with working out and having the motivation and discipline, you need to be around people that have motivation and discipline, because you're going to either feed off of that, or you're going to be able to pick up good habits that help you along the way.
Yeah.
And that comes back to the no more walking in feeling lost. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or feeling like, hey, I'm here, which kind of shows you're already trying to make the right step, which is you're showing up, but maybe you just need some like guidance and a push in the right direction to keep going that way.
You got someone, available that's going to lend you a hand.
Yeah, and this is from my own personal experience, from what I see at the gym side. Sometimes people, I think, are coming to the gym to work out, but sometimes I think they're coming for different reasons. Some people come, you could tell they're not the most sociable. They're looking for maybe to like learn how to like, I don't say learn how to interact socially, but they're here for, I think sometimes it's more than just that. You know what I mean? It's more so.
Some people come here, man, and it's really a Zen aspect.
Yeah.
It's really kind of like a solitary kind of just like a release of, or maybe even a reabsorption of some kind of energy.
Yeah.
Because it takes them out of what their daily grind is, recenters them, refocuses them, and then they can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you need to be around people where it's like you have to like, and I'm not saying this in a mean way, because I've seen it in a mean way in the military and being a cop, where it's like you know what I mean? But to me, it's like I've always been like a pusher person. Like if you tell me like,
what's your major malfunction? Nuts?
It's not even like that. Whether to me, it's like if you say you're gonna come work out, then come fucking work out. Like you know what I mean? Or you want to do this, then do it. I'm not really a person that really entertains people's like reasons for why they can't do something. I'm more just like, well, just do it then. Like,
Yeah.
you just, why not? Why don't you just do it?
Yeah.
And sometimes people take that the wrong way. It's like, it's not in a negative way. It's like, well, people have been, you're thinking about it because people have been telling you to like, oh, it's okay to keep thinking about it. Not fuck that, just do it.
Yeah, it's funny is that a lot of people will start like laying out like reasons or like why they didn't, and they all just start resembling excuses.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, so,
Yeah.
you know what? Start focusing on the reasons why you're going to do it, and then you can just steer away from all that bullshit.
And
I'm
just
trying
so
to
you know-
justify to somebody else like, oh man, well this happened, that happens. It's like,
Yeah, and just so people know, me and Dave are always fucking tired. Like there's times where like you're here in the morning, we're early working out, then you're still here working
5 a.m., 9 a.m.
Yeah.
working. Yeah, then I'm like working all through that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where I feel like I've gone through all of Central fucking California, from Southern California to Central California, and I'll still come in. And it's like, and it's not that I'm not tired. It just, I just already feel committed to what I'm doing. So it doesn't even feel like a choice. It just feels like, okay, I gotta do this shit.
I mean, I'd be a liar if like, I wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Like it doesn't go through like my head. It's like, oh shit, man, do I really have to do this?
Yeah.
And then it's like, without even thinking about it, it's like my feet kick me out of bed and, just started carrying me out. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going, so yeah.
Yeah, it'll be good. So yeah, we're still working out some of the kinks of it, but that's I think what you're talking about for the Memorial Day thing. If that ends up going, that'll be cool.
That would actually be a really good kickoff
Yeah.
to like to the Good and Dangerous program.
You have to make them sign like a hurt feelings report. So you don't complain about your hurt feelings.
The butt hurt report. Sorry.
Yeah, butt hurt report. It'll be good for you. It makes it tougher. So. Mind calluses.
Right.
And then, so then we'll do our shout outs to the Gain Station Gym, as always, for letting us, do the podcast here. The gym, the equipment's always good. You guys have the recovery center.
We do have the recovery center.
How's that been working? Is that better now? Everything's
It's getting a lot better. Yeah, people are minding their hygiene.
yes.
It's
always
I stay on top of them.
Yeah.
And I reluctantly go, oh, okay, fine. Or then there's those few people who just like, decided to not use the tubs because it's like,
because
it's
they've been
it's so
shamed.
hard.
We
It's like-
shamed them.
It's like, man, okay, so you're making it that obvious that it was you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Then obviously for the Good and Dangerous, for the Good Leader brand, make sure you follow us on all streaming platforms, like and subscribe, and support us at goodleader.shop. And then Miguel for the podcast, EZF Media. He does all OnlyFans podcast and Porno Needs in San Luis Obispo County.
Trying to up his subscribership.
See, that's the best like commercial you could have right there, Miguel.
Yeah, I'm trying to broaden my
Mm-hmm.
So if you need an OnlyFans content creator, Miguel says he got you.
And we need to get him a bodysuit or something.
He said he can also be, on-screen talent if needed.
Willing to experiment.
Yeah.
There you go.
And that's it. Miguel, what's your question, Miguel? Senor?
So I had a thought about when you mentioned the Book of Eli and just he's going through his journey,
Yeah.
like, and things just keep coming at him.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where like you have to keep pushing forward,
Yeah.
and the more you push, the more things come at you, right? And like Devin Goggins has a saying, it's like I did 1,000 miles to be able to run 50 easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, what's your advice for people to like get to that point?
It really becomes an acceptance. It is all the trials and challenges that ever come your way. The only course is through. You can't dodge it. You can't find a way. But you just gotta keep moving forward. And when you actually have a purpose in what you're doing, it does make it easier.
And also think it's like wins and losses. For myself, always tell like going back to even just being a kid, right? I can kind of like without getting all super long about it. But I think, like not having my dad, right? I had to learn to kind of like, okay, how am I gonna be as a man, right? And then, and that came into like encountering, getting in fights, kind of going through those things. And I had the choice. I remember you always have the choice, right? Your mind's telling you, do I run or do I fight? That's all it always feels like.
I don't know. You don't always have the choice.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, so,
the neighborhood I grew up in, it was like,
well, some people just run away or they get beat up or whatever, right?
Right.
And I always was telling myself, like, fuck that. I don't want to be a victim or whatever. So I was like always gonna fight. And then going to the military, it was kind of the same thing, right? But it's not always a physical fight. Sometimes it's a mental fight. You're fighting against yourself. You're fighting against exhaustion. Sometimes you are fighting against people,
And fighting against your environment.
your environment. So when I came out of the military and all those things, you feel stronger. You know, when I went into it, I felt like, oh, you feel confident. You've been in a, and it's not saying that fighting is the thing that's gonna make you feel better, but it's the same reason people probably do martial arts, right? Like you feel confidence, you get some kind of, and then that's out of the military, and then being like going into law enforcement, it was the same thing. It's like this. I almost think you almost have to keep putting yourself in uncomfortable situations where it takes you a while to fill it out, and it's not going to always be easy. It doesn't mean you're always going to be successful, but you start building like that internal confidence in what you're doing, and then you start like that becomes your thousand miles, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so everything else comes easy. So to me, like right now, when people talk, like prior to me and you have only talked about it, like when people talk about like, oh, you know, a long day, yeah, like the day's long, but we've gone through so much worse that it doesn't, yeah, it's long, but that's it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know, it's like, it makes it like your perspective is so different from other people that it just isn't. And that's what I tell people all the time. Like, cause sometimes people have said like, is it really like that serious? I'm like, yeah, like I said, when you've been around, you know, having friends died or people die around you, did anyone die today? Then no, then I could fucking work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's literally like, that's how I think about it. And sometimes people are like, oh, that's so like serious to like that, and say no, it makes you put things in perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of how small, like it's like this is not hard. I mean, it's hard, but it's not hard like that.
Yeah. And it does matter how you face something that's actually going to turn into a fight. I mean, if you got something or whatever, I suppose I could draw this as like a metaphor from the neighborhood I grew up in. It's like, oh, so yeah, somebody's already decided they're going to fight you.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever. It's like, oh, you know, turn around and try to run from it, you're just going to get beat up from behind. And it's like, so it's like, you know, you can't defend yourself that way.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, so they're coming at you. Might as well face it because that's your best chance of doing something about it.
And I guess it goes back to like, are you going to be proud of yourself? Like, you know what I mean? Of how you deal with stuff. And I equate that back to the first run. I talked about this to a guy yesterday because he was talking about running. And because he is a bigger guy, and he said he was, you know, he's not a good runner. I told him the first time I ran in the Army, I fell out of the run. And when I went back to the barracks, I was looking, I don't know why, I was just like looking in the mirror at myself, and I was like, fuck that, I ain't falling out of any more runs. And I wasn't a good runner. I wasn't like I had run track or done anything like that. So, and I never did after that. And it wasn't because I fucking like running or just become a magic. I just hated the feeling of how I felt about falling out of that run, that I told myself I wasn't going to fall out no more. Right. So I think sometimes that has to happen to you. Like you have to feel like you have to take a loss to say, I'm not going to feel that shit again. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, but not in a bad way. It's more like, now I got to do everything I can to win.
Yeah.
And I think when you do that, even when you don't do it, you know, you gave your all. And you're like, well, I know I can get stronger from this point, where I wouldn't, if I had never got to that point, I wouldn't be able to get stronger. I would just still be back over there like, oh, fuck, you know, I can't run.
you do become more resilient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Winners have more losses than losers.
Yeah, this is true.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Exactly.